It's stories like this when they come along that really reinforces the opinion that we are stuck in a cultural time loop, because I don't know, man, this really does seem like it's ripped from the headlines of 2014, a la the time of the original Gamergate, and well, Visa and MasterCard are reportedly censoring video games alongside Australian activist group Collective Shout. Yeah, you have a fringe, just a very focal fringe minority of activist freaks that are out there wanting to ruin the fun of everybody else that's out there because of their own feminist proclivities. They're not out there trying to make gaming a better place. They're not out there protecting the children, because in actuality, the games that they're trying to censor are already made for a mature audience. Now, to be completely honest, these aren't really games that I like or want, and hell, they're even using, cover art of Stellar Blade. That's not one of the games that are getting censored, but if these people get their way, those are the types of games that would be getting censored. Those are the games that would be getting canceled. Those are the types of games that, if they are platformed and put up for sale by a specific distributor, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, which, if you remember, a couple of years back, there was a little line in the terms of service when it got updated, okay, that PayPal reserves the right, okay? It's kind of like how Nintendo, we reserve the right to brick any console if you decide to, I don't know, do something we don't like, but PayPal, yeah, we reserve the right to ding you $1,000, okay, if you end up violating a clause that we don't like, if you end up doing something that we don't necessarily find is congruent with our values, yeah, we reserve the right to levy a fee upon you. And all of the apologists and people saying that, oh, if you're pointing this out, you're just simply being an alarmist. Here we are once again with, yes, the digital future that all of you simps were just bending over backwards for, giving up your physical goods, giving up your ownership for perceived convenience, ends up bottlenecking payment processors, because you can no longer pay for cash online. You can't open up your CD tray, which I don't think anybody even has on their towers anymore. You can't plunk your change into your floppy drive. No. Everything has to go via credit card or some Visa or MasterCard authorized debit purchase, and they are ultimately the curators of your entertainment. Visa and MasterCard are reportedly censoring video games alongside activist groups like Collective Shout. In the digital age, where video games represent a multi-billion-dollar industry blending art, entertainment, and expression, a new front in the battle over content control has emerged. Payment processors like Visa and MasterCard, wielding immense economic leverage, are increasingly dictating what games can be sold on platforms like Steam, effectively censoring the video game industry, which, this one right here, Valve pulls adult-only games from Steam as it tightens rules to appease payment partners. Yeah. Which, honestly, like I said before, these aren't games that, I'm going to shed a tear over them being gone. But at the same time, I've been around long enough to know that this isn't simply a slippery slope argument. You aren't being an alarmist. No. What is starting out as using the most nefarious examples to get your point across very quickly becomes, I don't like that anymore. It has hate speech in it. Get it off the platform. Okay, Valve is tightening its guidelines around adult-only content to satisfy rules set by Steam's payment processing partners, with dozens of sexually explicit games removed from the platform throughout the week. As spotted by GameSpark and shared by Automaton, sure. SteamDB logs show a flurry of activity behind the scenes at Steam, updated its rules and guidelines policy, making it clear that publishing certain kinds of adult-only content could violate them. The newly added Clause 15 of the policy now explicitly states content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers shouldn't be posted on Steam. The ex-Twitter account for SteamDB revealed a long list of pornographic games recently delisted from Steam. Follows a public outcry earlier this year when UK Technology Secretary Peter Kyle slammed Steam for hosting sexually explicit visual novels in which the protagonist engaged in non-consensual acts, including a bunch of stuff. Developer Xerox Games eventually announced it and would voluntarily withdraw the visual novel after it was removed from sale in the UK, Canada, and Australia. Oh my god, once again, the Commonwealth acting like cooks. However, Valve's new guidelines were criticized by some who have expressed concern concern over censorship and the vagueness of Valve's language around its rules. Earlier today, we reposted, yes, a Valve co-founder and boss, Gabe Newell, who offered a rare insight into his days living, working, and enjoying life on a super yacht he calls a boat. Yeah, I don't really care what Gabe's up to right now. I just want to know what his company is up to. Can we go ahead and get some clarification on that? What exactly Visa, MasterCard, and these other payment overlords are prioritizing? Because honestly, you take a look at this list that's right here. Okay, all depictions of, yes, Lannister love. Let's go with that one. Including activity between immediate or close biological family members, self-harm, okay. Content that promotes hate, harm, or extremist ideology, urine, menstruation, smegma, diapers. It's like, normally, like, if that's a leading theme or leading component of your game, I'm probably not going to be encouraged to watch this. But again, the third bullet point right there promotes hate, harm, or extremist ideologies. I mean, like, okay, I've talked about it before. Final Fantasy is probably my favorite video game franchise. If I really sat down and thought about it, I'll just go ahead and say that, because I think it's fair enough. It's fair enough, okay? But more often than not, you are, well, okay, at the end of several games, you end up fighting God. Would that be considered an extremist ideology? Is there some kinked interpretation of those rules that would lead you to believe that that would be a game that would promote hate against certain theologies? If some activist group ends up coming out and saying that, no, the worshippers of Ultima, they're a legitimate group, and the fact that Clive Rossfield goes in there and he ends up killing and punching a god in the face as his final act of defiance. God, I hate Final Fantasy 16. It's so goddamn stupid. That is an affront to their religious freedoms, and we need to have that game excised from Steam. And while I wouldn't shed a tear if that game didn't make a single fucking dollar moving forward, it would be a stupid reason to censor and deplatform any game that's out there. And yeah, okay, all depictions of urine. In Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, what is it? Captain Boomerang pisses on the mind-controlled corpse of Flash. Now, that game is an absolute abomination, but does it deserve to be delisted? If you're going to be holding true to your morals and principles and your desire to not see any of these components in games moving forward, would you be doing that? Or if, Rockstar has just cozied up, or sorry, not Rockstar, Rocksteady has cozied up closely enough to you because of their other ideological endeavors that they want to push, would they be able to somehow slip through the cracks on this? Just wondering. All sexual activity, involving firearms aimed or pointed towards individuals, vomit, illegal substances, or recreational products. Oh, okay, cool. So a game that absolutely took over for a very brief period of time, I think in late April, early May, Schedule 1. Like, if there's a subplot about, I don't know, maybe running girls for your drug empire, would that end up being an actionable offense? Okay, being drunk, being drugged, being hypnotized, being mind controlled. I'm thinking of one game in particular. Okay, so all activity involving being mind controlled, hypnotized, or somehow otherwise, I'm sure they'll probably end up getting elaborated upon and expounded upon that. By coercing, by putting somebody in a position that they really don't want to be in, but consequences could be dire, that could end up getting a game banned. And it's a very important plot point in a very, 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 very excellent game that actually does, depending on your interpretation of what sexual activity is, there's an unreciprocated kiss. Would that get that game taken down? And if it did, I would just rain hellfire and brimstone over everything that I possibly could. But anyways, I digress. These positions, do you think MasterCard cares? Do you think Microsoft, Visa, Steam, PayPal, any of these companies actually give a shit about what is in these games to begin with? They just know that, the money machine goes burr whenever video games are involved. It's the biggest entertainment medium in the world by a long shot, multiple times larger than Hollywood. Far and away larger than the entire music industry. Like, games are it. And if any of those payment processors can get a slice, they are more than willing to do this. So how is it that an activist collective like Collective Shout can get the ear of these corporations? How can they get an in? How can their fringe bullshit gain such a large foothold. Okay, so at the heart of this controversy, if we're being also accurate as well, an Australian feminist activist group that has positioned itself as a catalyst pressuring these financial giants to enforce moral standards on global gaming. As of July 21st, 2025, the alliance has led for the removal of hundreds of adult-themed games, sparking outrage over free speech, cultural imperialism, and corporate overreach. This isn't just about niche content, it's a symptom of a broader trend where private companies act as a de facto censor, bypassing governments and courts, while proponents frame it as a victory for child safety and against exploitation. But again, all of these games that are getting censored, like Stellar Blade, is a mature title. Okay, those graphic novels, yeah, they're all rated appropriately. Even the slop that I recently seen on Steam, I thought I talked about this in a previous video, but yeah, when I was just looking at like the new and trending tab that was on Steam, and yeah, it was one of those point and click waifu adventures that just looked absolutely asinine. And yeah, just looking at the rest of the catalog for the developers, they just have so many slop titles that are out there, and yeah, they're all priced at like $5 or $10 like that. They're probably super easy to create and end up turning a relatively large profit off of the couple of dozen sales that they get. And well, I censor those games all the time because I don't buy them. I never engage with them again after just a sheer morbid curiosity, wondering like, what the fuck are people putting out on the indie slops pages on Steam? It's like, okay, cool. The big reason that whenever I hear people talk about, oh, the AAA gaming industry is dying, but that's fine, indie will save us, is like, you take a look at a vast majority of the indie slop that's out there, and for every Claire Obscure Expedition 33, every Pal World that comes along and just upsets the apple cart of AAA gaming, you have an unspeakable amount of garbage, pixel art, PS1 pre-rendered backgrounds. Oh, look guys, it's nostalgia baiting garbage that just is festooned across all of these platforms. So no, won't somebody please think of the children? No, won't somebody think of good game design? Controversy surrounding Visa and MasterCard supposedly censoring video games ignited in mid-July of 2025 when Valve, the company behind Steam, the world's largest PC gaming platform, really, I haven't heard of them before, updated its publisher guidelines to prohibit content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by our payment processors or banking partners. Talked about that before. And now we can go ahead and simply talk about the Collective Shout. Okay, enter Collective Shout, a supposed grassroots organization founded in 2009, to combat objectification of women and in media. Fucking example number 397 as to why women and gaming should be kept separately. And the more I talk about shit like this and look at all of these fucking news stories, it's just the more that I'm thinking that Islam is right. Keep these women covered up and kept over there. Oh, based in Australia, a nation with the stringent content laws. But it's fine because they're a Western company and women are, just treated equally, and, they're allowed to enforce all of their desires and all of their opinions are held in high regards. It's so wild, right? Because if Collective Shout was a group of guys that came together in 2009 to combat the objectification of women and in media, would they have been given a second thought? I don't fucking think so. But yes, the group has a history of successful campaigns, including pressuring retailers like Target to pull Grand Theft Auto 5 from shelves in 2014 over what they deemed inappropriate elements. Hilarious. In this case, Collective Shout openly claimed responsibility for Steam's purge, boasting of reducing specific game tags from nearly 500 to 82. Okay. Strategy, yes, bypassing platforms and developers to target payment processing directly by flooding Visa, MasterCard, and even PayPal with complaints, petitions, and accusations of facilitating violent content. Creative Shout exploited the company's brand protection policies, drawing on feminist theories that equate such content with real crimes. The group framed these games not as fiction, but as enablers of criminal activity. And I mean, some of their handiwork right here. This is one of the founders of Collective Shout that is forcing Steam to bow down to payment processors. Video games with porn-type heroines are harming children, a body image expert says. This is probably the same type of body image expert who also thinks that big is beautiful. Oh, okay, I'm sure that's probably one of the Dead or Alive Extreme Beach volleyball games. Played the first one. It's actually a fun volleyball video game. It had a bunch of cool casino games that were in there, and yeah, some of the, like you could put Tina and Ayune and, oh my god, I'm forgetting her name, the redheaded ninja, god damn it. You could put them in hilarious bikinis, including like grains of sand around the nipples, and it's like, it's just goofy shit, okay? But then you got, yeah, Lara Croft circa, god, what is that? Early Xbox 360, and then you got Cortana from Halo 3. Like, those are some real up-to-date and relevant images, even back when the article was written in 2017. Like, Lara Croft had already been rebooted and into her, probably by the time the Shadow of the Tomb Raider came out. or Rise, whatever the second one is, the one that I played like one mission of and was exceedingly bored about. But yeah, Halo 3 came out like a decade prior to that, and Cortana had undergone several different changes since then. But anyways, yeah, even when women are depicted as kicking ass, they have to be hot doing it. Youth women advocate Melinda Tankard raced. Sure. Attention is drawn to her sexual characteristics with tight clothing emphasizing large surgically enhanced breasts. Really? It's almost assumed that boys would want to play these games without sexy women in them. Yeah, because, you know, Uncharted would come along and pretty much rip a bunch of the plot points from old Tomb Raider games, and yeah, nobody wanted to play those games. Right, and Cortana, an AI who is a secondary character, she was the entire reason why Halo was so successful. And how successful were those spin-off Extreme Beach volleyball games? And even its parent franchise, Dead or Alive, what's the health of that fighting game series right now, even at a point in time where there are so many outside of Mortal Kombat? And it's so funny, right? The moment that they started to go away from attractive females was the moment that they nosedived into irrelevance. But you take a look at what Capcom is doing, especially with their beach costumes that they just announced. It's so funny, right? No, but instead, listen to the likes of a Sydney psychologist, Sarah McMahon. Oh, you're interviewing the wrong McMahon, because if you're going to be talking about implementing, you know, attractive women into your product, you should be talking to a Mr. McMahon. But anyways, director of Body Matters. These images set up an impossible expectation. Women in these video games have impossibly big breasts. They are not athletic. Like, I mean, that one you could have picked a better picture of Lara Croft. And again, Cortana is a fucking AI. But it's so stupid. It's like you can totally and completely disregard that entire article because it's full of fucking idiocy by morons. And as Arch, shout out, has highlighted, Collective Shout is a much bigger player than we thought. They not only got an article pulled within a day, they got a writer fired. Now Anna is certainly no friend to us, making all of this more remarkable. Anna Valens, you know, one of the mouthpieces over advice, grew behind Steam censorship policies, have powerful allies, and targeted popular games without outlandish claims. Yeah, and Vice's owner, Savage Ventures, has requested the removal of my Collective Shout articles. Okay, this is due to concerns about the controversial subject matter, not journalistic complaints. Effective immediately, I will no longer contribute to Waypoint. This upsets you. No, shout out, okay? Because, yeah, that's actually standing up for something. And so you have the likes of Collective Shout coming out and saying that, oh, no, we're doing this in order to protect women and children. But in reality, they're just trying to enforce their power. They're trying to get a foothold in gaming, and they're going all the way to the top to make this happen. And in this case, the only way to fight fire is with fire. Because an apathetic approach, like what happened in 2014, thinking that, oh yeah, the women there, they're just over there nattering, you know, what exactly can they do? They end up in front of the UN, they end up leading to some of the worst fucking changes in video games that we have seen over the past decade and have effectively killed the goddamn industry. I'm not going to let it happen again. I'm going to continue to cover this stuff and lend my voice to this conversation. I don't like Stellar Blade. I don't like any of these fucking stupid graphic novels that is just a bunch of weird fanfics that are out there. But do they deserve to be on a platform? Do they have the right to be sold by people who want to buy them? Abso-fucking-lutely. So no, Collective Shout, you deserve the microscope as being placed on your company right now, and you deserve everything that you're getting right now. Get these freaks out of the industry. Get these people out of any hobby that you care about, because they aren't here to make it better. They're just here to enforce their own will. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.